Hello, I'm Dustin with Life Changing Belief, and today I'm here to talk about God's law. God's law. It's a concept that is all throughout Scripture, but many times we have a tendency to overlook it, or sometimes we think, oh, that's an Old Testament thing, that's not for today. But I want to tell you that it is. And maybe the reason you thought it's for the Old Testament is because you didn't understand it. So today I want to look into what God's law is. I'm going to read for you a passage real quick. Psalms 119, verse 1 says, "Blessed are those whose way is blameless, who walk in the law of the Lord." And that's the ESV translation. Blessed are those who walk in the law of the Lord. Obviously, there's a very special blessing for those who walk according to God's law. Today, I want to explain a little bit more about God's law. Many theologians break it down to three parts: the ceremonial, the moral, and the civil. You see, in the Bible, the first 5 books of the Bible are called the Torah, or the Mosaic Law. This law, although was given to the children of Israel, has precepts that are timeless. They go both Old, New Testament, and it's moral, right, and wrong. This is what we call the moral law. This is the timeless truths of what is right and wrong. Things such as do not murder, do not steal. These are timeless truths, and these are all based off of God's character, who God is, what God allows for himself. So that is the moral law. And then we have the ceremonial law. The ceremonial law is what many people would refer to as the book of Leviticus, many parts of Exodus, where it's the sacrifices, the rituals of temple worship, all the ceremonies. These ceremonies in the Old Testament all point to Christ and what he did on the cross. These are not meant to be boring, even though sometimes they can be hard to read. But us as Christians, we read them realizing every aspect of these points back to God. It points back to the cross, or in this case, forward to the cross. That is the ceremonial. And many of these ceremonial laws are transferred into the church through our liturgies, through our traditions, such as the Passover law. The Passover law now is expressed in the Eucharist, or the Lord's Supper. That's how we remember it today. Now, as we are in the new covenant, not in the old covenant of works and the new covenant of grace, these laws do change. But the moral laws don't. Our ceremonies may change, but our moral laws never do. And then you have the last one, the civil law. The civil law was given to the children of Israel on how they were supposed to run as an ideal nation that represents God. Now, there's a wide spectrum as far as how these laws are to apply. Some say that these civil laws still apply today. Some say that these civil laws are merely symbolic pictures of how the church is supposed to operate. So, for example, the court trials that were given in the Old Testament. The court trials required 2 witnesses, and that you were supposed to go to them first, and then you're supposed to continue on to have them judged before the nation. Well, in church, Jesus says in Matthew 18 that you're supposed to have 2 witnesses. You're supposed to go to them once individually, then go to them with another person, and then bring them before the church. So many people see these civil laws as being symbolic of how the church is supposed to operate. Others, they see it that this is how the government's supposed to operate. This was an ideal God-given constitution for a government. Why can't it operate the same? There's a wide spectrum on how this is supposed to be understood. Whether one's right or one's wrong is up to personal study. So we see this threefold understanding, but I would also like to add a little bit more to this to dive a little bit deeper. You see, what we have in Scripture is called the revealed law. The revealed law is everything Scripture teaches us: the ceremonial, the moral, and the civil. But they build upon each other. You see, it all starts with the moral. The moral is all built on the character of God, who he is, how he operates. Us, as the image of God, created in his image, are supposed to reflect that moral law in our morality and in our choices. We're supposed to act in a godly manner. From the outflow of that, you have the ceremonial law. The ceremonial law outflows to show us Christ on earth, pointing us to Jesus Christ. After that, I'd like to add a fourth one. That'd be natural law. Natural law is a little bit different. So hear me out. God, the creator of everything, does not think like us. His thoughts are far above us, and man is not like God in the way that he should be. God is a divine. We are mortal. He is infinite. We are finite. So we cannot truly, completely understand the mind of God other than what he's revealed. But we can observe different things through his creation. You see, God created the creation order of how things are supposed to run, how things are supposed to operate, whether that be the roles in the family, whether that be the roles in the government, or whether that be in nature. We see the laws of science, the laws of physics. We see biology. We see how things are supposed to work. And with us and these natural observations, the individual can naturally come to logical conclusions about right and wrong and come up with a natural law based on observation built within creation. And Romans 1 teaches that natural law is a real thing. God has placed himself within creation to such a level that we can see that there is a creator. With there being a creator, we know that we are creation and that we need God. The thing with natural law is natural law doesn't reveal enough for us to know salvation, for us to know the gospel. It can reveal enough for us to know that we're sinners, according to Romans 1, but it falls short of showing us the revealed law and the revealed gospel that Jesus came, died, was buried, and rose again the third day. These can't be observed by nature, but we can know that these are true based on the revealed law, which is his scripture, based on what he has taught us in his scripture. So there's the natural law. Starts with the mind of God, continues on throughout creation order, and is built within each one of us. There's a natural law that is written on each one of our hearts. This is why universally people know that murder's wrong, that lying is wrong, because these are things observed in nature and that can be applied to the individual based on God's creation. So we have the moral, we have the ceremonial, the natural. One thing I'd like to add, this is a great book that helped me understand natural law. It's called Natural Law, A Brief Introduction and Biblical Defense by David Haynes and Andrew Fulford. This was a great book to help me understand the basics as I was introduced to the concept of natural law. But after natural law, we have the civil law, which is also specifically mentioned. You see, civil law, some people say, oh, we shouldn't legislate morality. Well, in reality, every piece of legislation is an outflow of morality. Once you go through and you make it a law, it becomes a sense of morality if you broke it or if you kept the law. We see civil law as an outflow of morality. Also, your ceremonies, your cultures, and if they're based off godly ceremonies, godly cultures, they are going to be reflected within the culture and within its civil law. Natural law. There are certain things within nature that we all know that doesn't have to be revealed to us per se through the Bible, such as murder, such as stealing. These are things that are naturally revealed to us through natural law that we apply to civil law. All of these are an outflow of civil law. Civil law is a reflection of the society. If you're governing your life based off of God's moral law, based off of ceremonial law, based off his natural law, you will also apply it to the civil law based on just a natural outflow. This isn't meant to change a nation in the sense of that is our end goal. It doesn't matter who's in charge. What matters is, are you following God? Do you know God personally? Do you believe the gospel that Jesus came, died, was buried, and rose again the third day? That he is God in the flesh? That is what determines salvation. The purpose of walking in God's law is to be like him, to grow closer to him, not in order to be saved, but as an expression of thanksgiving because we are saved, and working as we are created to work, doing what we are created to do. That is the purpose of God's law. And as the psalm says, blessed are those who walk in the law of God.